Hello.
Hello.
Hi, guys. It is April the 17th. It's Friday night, and we're in an office.
You say we're in an office. Like, this
Well,
doesn't look like any sort of office. Technically, it's the back bedroom, isn't it, of
it's
our
the
house?
front bedroom.
The front bedroom, and it used to be an office of sorts, and then
Yeah.
it kind of became your
Junk room.
slash
Makeup
makeup room.
Makeup room.
And then we took out all the furniture and most of the junk, and lay cushions and pillows and towels and blankets on the floor, and turned it into a home for a poorly cat.
Yeah. It's kind of like a padded cell now, and I quite like it.
There have been times.
You might be quite apt.
Yeah, there have been times where I've felt the need of a padded cell.
So I should say, so yes, so it being the 17th of April, that means it is day 28 of lockdown. So that is 3 weeks in, 3 dead. 3 dead? No, that's 4 weeks in. Oh God, I can't even count. 4 weeks in. 28 days, isn't it? Yeah.
What did dead come in?
3 weeks dead on. That is what I meant.
Oh, I see.
4
Right.
weeks dead on.
It's just you kept stopping at dead, and that was confusing for the people at home. I got it obviously, but I needed to clarify for the people.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did that. Thank you.
Well, I do worry about the people.
So hi guys. Yeah. It's been a less stressful day so far. I didn't get a lot of sleep because Poppet was still on her opiates and just went absolutely loopy when she had her 4 a.m. dose this morning. So for about 3 hours after that, I was essentially following her around the room, stopping her, jumping up on things. But the thing is, she can't walk across the room. She sort of tumbles about the place, and then she sort of prop herself up, and then she'll get designs on a surface. There's one bit of furniture that's left in here, it's a desk. And you could see her just eyeing it up, thinking, yeah, I can make that. And I'm like, you haven't got the balance. You couldn't make that anyway comfortably. It's quite a jump, a leap or a jump or a lump, whatever. But you certainly can't do it with your current level of drugs and balance being off. So she's
quite
mental.
Ambitious, yeah, for a cat that can't really stand up on her own properly, to try and jump onto a bit of furniture. Madness.
Yeah, Madness. To be honest, I think she was off it. It's really drugged up. So she's had her last dose of that. What time was that today? It was after she got back from the vet, so about 3-ish today. Thankfully, she's got no more of them.
It's just a sort of routine check today, and everything's looking good with the leg, from what they can tell. Yeah. The toes are
bit swollen, but not looking
unduly swollen. Yeah,
yeah,
all good. So that was good. We've also, I don't know how much we've talked about this, we've got 4 other animals in the house, haven't we?
Yeah.
And Lucy the dog, who has been used to us being home.
Yeah, she's been loving us being home all the time.
But now she is not loving us being in here with the cat and not being out there with her.
Yeah. But and she just looks so sad.
And we do try and have one of us spend some time with her, but we also do need to spend some time with each other.
Yeah.
And
she gets to sleep on the bed with whichever one of us is in the bedroom, which I think she likes. But yeah, and also I think even the little cats, sort of, although cats aren't the most affectionate of beasties, I think that today when you relieved me so I could go and have a couple of hours in the bed, within minutes I had Lucy and Totem and Arthur all on me. Which actually made sleeping a little bit tricky, but it was very nice. So I think they do sort of get, I think they're missing us a bit as well. But
when I see the little ones, they seem a bit more docile and a bit more susceptible to cuddles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and the thing is, obviously we can't have Lucy in here because she's a big Labrador dog, and she would sort of probably stomp all through the cat litter, and
we've let her in to have a little sniff, but Poppet doesn't seem too sure about it. Maybe when Poppet's a bit more mobile and a bit more comfortable,
the cats theoretically could come in, but they seem, if anything, scared.
Yeah, they don't like the cone on Poppet. In fact, Ford, who is the most docile, sweet little thing, he's probably the most soppy of all the cats, and actually one of the soppiest cats I've ever known. He came in and clocked Poppet and hissed her, and then backed off out of the room, and I was like, ooh. That's obviously not a happy cat.
Not a happy cat.
So yeah.
So that's pet news.
They're being a bit neglected, but we're doing what we can.
People watching this. Yesterday, I've got this little bit of hair growth. It's not quite enough to be what you call a soul patch, exactly, is it? And
I don't know what to call it.
well, no, I've got a little bit of hair that I didn't shave off underneath my bottom lip, and yesterday I used hair chalk to make it sort of a blue colour. And
He doesn't check the colours with me. He's not colourblind, he just doesn't know colour names.
well, I thought it was teal, and I was told it wasn't.
Teal is bluey green.
So, yeah, I said, yeah, I thought it was a sort of bluey green. It was sort of nacre-y. Anyway, so today I thought I'd change it up a bit.
Very exciting content.
I'd go with pink. I thought I'd do it pink, but now I'm looking at it. It just looks like I've got a scabby chin.
Go a bit closer to the camera so they can sort of see what we're dealing with. Yeah, it doesn't look great, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it just looks like you've maybe got a burn or something, because it's kind of like skin tony on the camera.
Yeah, like I've got a carpet burn on my chin. How would I get one of those? So, the way we both said it's very suspicious then, isn't it?
We lost all semblance of innocence there, didn't we?
So, and also I thought, well, maybe I'll put on a sort of hot pink t-shirt to sort of match.
Do you have a hot pink t-shirt?
No, it turns out I don't. So, don't know what made me think I might have one. And so I'm wearing this slightly too tight thermal vest.
I was going to say, is that a vest?
Yeah.
You probably can't tell from there, but it's got the little ribs going down it. Little thermal vest.
Ribbed for my pleasure.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, very glamorous. You've glammed up. I've got my face on. I'm going to try and, when I can be bothered, I'm not going to say I'm going to do my face every day, but I actually do think there is something, not exactly therapeutic, but helpful to your sort of state of being if either just like getting up and having a shower and having a bath or whatever, or putting your face on, or just because it'd be very easy, particularly now, to just be like, I'm not even leaving the room mainly, so I can just slob out. But I think sort of putting the face on stops me fully slobbing.
This probably isn't the best on camera admin, but we need to sort out the angles or something for this, or because I feel like I look all right sort of here, but then I'm back here and I'm like...
Well, you need to sit up properly and move the pillow behind you.
I'm like the guy out of the royal family, you know, like just a real couch potato vibe going on.
I asked if you were ready and you said you were ready.
Well, I was
you could
vaguely
see.
Comfortable, and that is the best that I can hope for. And it's so uncomfortable. Like, this room, even though we filled it with blankets and pillows, it is impossible to get comfortable. I'm constantly a ball of pins and needles. And
I think you're going to get progressively grumpier on these blogs in here, aren't you?
I don't know if I should have spent more of my life doing yoga. If I'd be a bit more flexible and I'd be able to get a bit more comfortable just kind of sat on a floor. But I haven't spent my life doing that, and I'm not.
I'm not going to start now.
No, I mean, I'm just not comfortable.
Yeah.
And maybe I will start now with the yoga. I did have a friend who's a yoga instructor, but...
You did have?
Well, I do have, but she actually gave me like a discount code for a session of yoga, but we can't really use that now, can we? Because lockdown.
Use the Wii Fit. That's got a yoga thing on it.
I think she might be doing yoga sort of online though, that people can watch on her Instagram and things. So we'll might as well, if you're into yoga, check out Larry Morgan on Instagram. Larry Yoga, I think it is, and then do some yoga at her. With her.
At her.
Yeah.
Do it at her.
Made that sound aggressive, didn't it?
I don't think you can make yoga aggressive. But you did. So
I don't know. I saw that documentary.
Oh, the Bikram.
Yeah, about
Bikram.
Well,
I don't think he made yoga aggressive. I think just he was a bad man.
He was a bad man.
Bad man. But yeah, that's very much a strange aside. But yeah. I also didn't think it was a particularly gripping documentary. It was an interesting situation, but I don't think it was a particularly exciting documentary. I wouldn't be like, oh, you've got to watch it, it's really fascinating. What happened was very interesting, but the documentary was a bit
better told.
Yeah.
But that's fine, you know.
It's no Tiger King.
Yeah. There's a new episode of Tiger King, do you know that?
Is there?
Yeah, there's you might not know this, guys. If you've watched Tiger King already, they've just on Netflix, I saw today, they've put on a whole new episode where they interview... people who were in it about their newfound sort of fame and notoriety and what's happened since the documentary. And
have you seen it?
No. I was going to tell you about it if it came up. If we were going to watch something, I might have put it out as a suggestion, but that hasn't really come up because we've been watching something else this evening.
And actually, you don't have long to get in on this. We mentioned before that we were watching some of the National Theatre's theatre productions. They tended to be putting up one a week that is up for the week, and then they take it down on YouTube. Tonight, we have been watching Phantom of the Opera, which is one of my absolute favourite musicals. I will fully acknowledge it is absolutely as camp as Butlins, but I love it. I just love it. I used to work on the press for the show back in my West End days, and it was also before I did any of that. It was the first West End show I ever saw, and I love it. And the 25th anniversary performance, which was on at the Albert Hall back in 2011, I think it was. I've double checked. Is up on YouTube. You have to go via the Shows Must Go On channel and subscribe there, and then you can watch it for the next, well, it went up at 7 and I think it's up for 24 hours, so by the time you see this tomorrow at 10 you will only have the day.
Do they put another one up then following day, or are they doing
I think they might be doing one a week,
but
I don't know
it on that day.
You've only got the day to watch it.
I didn't realise that.
Well, Andrew Lloyd, to be honest, I'm quite surprised that Andrew Lloyd Webber went for it. To be honest, he's very protective over his.
Leave it up a bit, Lloyd Webber. Give people a chance. You know, people have got stuff on.
Yeah.
Even in lockdown, people have got.
Some people are working.
Zoom meetings.
Some people, some people are like working shifts in hospitals and things, and would probably want that. But yeah, that's all you get. But it is very good. We're actually halfway through it, and realised it was getting quite late, so we thought we'd better do this. So we stopped at the interval, which seemed like a sensible place to stop. Chris had never seen it before. I've seen it many, many, many times, and the film, and I love it. What are you making of it?
Well, glad you asked. No, I think the thing is, sometimes with musicals, it can be hard if you've got like a lot of them all singing together. Yeah. To really hear all the words, and that can make following the plot quite difficult. And then also, so sometimes that's happened where there's been a few sort of chorusy bits with some quite high-pitched women all singing together, and I haven't really followed. And then also...
The high-pitched women.
Oh, the old high-pitched women. But then also, you've got in this, there's also ones who are doing sort of like mellifluous sort of... not necessarily opera, but sort of opera adjacent. In the opera style.
He's very much trying to sort of suggest opera without it being necessarily full classical opera.
I just want people to sing nice and clearly so I can hear the words.
He does, and actually quite a lot of his shows he does this, but particularly in Phantom, there's quite a lot of songs that will have several different characters all singing their own bit, and so their own lines and stuff overlap, which kind of means that you have to sort of listen to different people each time you see it. Which not many people can afford to do. But you can always get the film. In the film, they kind of, when there's those bits, they focus on the bit that they think is the most entertaining, and you can sort of hear it a bit more clearly. But yeah, I agree. I just know the show really well.
I guess there's a bit of that in Les Mis, isn't there? With different interlocking bits. But
Les Mis.
Les Mis. Les Miserables and his
The
orchestra.
Glums.
But I like that one, but then I listened to the soundtrack album quite a lot before I ever saw it.
That's another one I saw a million gazillion times.
But if you're actually watching a thing and you're trying to follow the plot, and it's quite... Well, see, I like Les Mis. Yeah. Because like there's a real story about sort of downtrodden people in the French Revolution, and I can quite get into that. It
isn't actually about the French Revolution. It's a precursor to the French Revolution. There was a student uprising before, so it's actually set in the wrong year for the French Revolution. It's based on the Victor Hugo novel, which actually isn't set in the French Revolution. It's a few years, about a decade prior, I think.
Well,
but everybody says it's French Revolution. It isn't. It is a sort of everybody thinks that. It's fine.
But the point
like
is,
I say, I worked on that show too.
You know, there's revolution and there's life and death, and it's good in it. And it's got funny bits. There haven't been many funny bits in Phantom.
Do you not think? I think there's funny bits.
Well, maybe I've just not really been able to follow.
You have been writing a Whatculture article throughout most of it.
No, that's not true.
First quarter you were Whatculturing. Then we had a break so you could go cook, and then we've come back. And so the second quarter you have been watching, but the second quarter is building up to the interval.
I was asking a lot
all
of
ramping
questions.
Yeah, you were.
Know what was happening.
It's fine, I don't mind, because also we can pause it, and...
it's quite melodramatic, isn't it?
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's very, very
And I'm
heightened
not.
and theatrical and dramatic and quite silly.
There was a couple of bits of the music that I
I read the
liked.
book though, and the book's bonkers. It's very
The book?
different to the book. Yeah, the book's by Gaston Leroux, who did Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh, so it was based on a book.
Yeah. So it's quite old. So yeah, like same author as Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I want to say like Victorian-ish, but I don't actually know. But he had a bit of a thing for sort of tragic, malformed people in Paris.
Yeah.
But yeah, the book's insane. The book is written. Obviously, I was reading a translation, but it's sort of written. As it starts as though it's like a newspaper account of real events, but then at times sort of accidentally slips into first person, but doesn't really make excuses for it. And yeah, it's mental. It's a strange read. That I wouldn't necessarily say it's one that you have to read, but if you really like the musical or the film or whatever, then I think it's worth a read just out of curiosity. Because
there was a couple of bits of music in it I liked. It was weird. The operatic stuff wasn't really for me, but then there's some other songs. There's one song in particular that I asked you when the recording was done of the show, because it felt like quite an 80s sort of arrangement.
Oh yeah.
But it was like 2012. I imagine you could.
No, like, the original show was in the 80s.
No, but the recording that we were watching.
Yeah, but they've been quite faithful. It's quite synthy, and it's got a little bit of like guitar. Like I think that was for the actual song, "The Phantom of the Opera." So the big, "In sleep he sang to me" and all that. It's got like synths, and it's got a guitar solo.
I don't mind it.
It is quite 80s though. Which I think he was being quite self-indulgent there, but I like it. I think it's great. But yeah, it's not. I fully acknowledge it's not everybody's cup of tea. My absolute favourite West End show is Chicago. I think that was my favourite.
I like Chicago. I've seen Chicago 3 times.
Oh wow, crikey! I didn't know you sort of had even really done much West End theatre, but 3 times. Well, I've probably only seen it about. Well, I've
not really West End. Cardiff New Theatre, but
that counts. It's still a West End show. It's just a touring production of a West End show.
But I mean, it's come out more by chance than kind of design that I've seen it 3 times, but I do like it, and I've seen.
How do you accidentally see Chicago?
Well, like, you see it once, and then your parents come to town and they want to see a thing, and it happens that that's on, and then things. I think I got some cheap tickets through work,
nice.
And things. So it's I didn't sort of stumble into it, but I did. I don't like it. I don't like it so much that I would have chosen to see it 3 times when there are other musicals that I haven't seen.
If you went to the West End, you wouldn't make a beeline for Chicago, having already seen it.
I'd quite like to see Wicked. I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see Wicked.
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Hamilton.
Yeah, me too.
That'd be good if they put Hamilton out for free.
Oh, they're not going to do that though, are they?
Oh,
that's still selling out and will be.
Well,
obviously not at the moment.
Is it though?
But it will. Like when it
though?
Goes, but that'll go back on stage.
Well, they'll only be allowed to sell like 10 tickets a show.
Well, I think they actually.
Mass gatherings, will they?
Well, yeah, but it might be like mass gatherings above 500, so you could have people in theatres. On that front, actually, we won't sort of keep going on about theatre stuff because that might not be your bag. But yeah, I saw an interesting story. It was a bit of a clickbaity headline, which there are a lot of them about at the moment. But yeah, it was a bit clickbaity because it made the impression that football was going to be coming back and they were going to sort of be actually running football matches, because there was a headline along the lines of I'm not sure actually what it's called, president or head, anyway, the head of the EFL was commenting on having closed stadiums. I think it was like closed stadiums this summer for football matches. That made it sound like it was planned and it was coming back. Basically, he actually has said, realistically speaking, whenever we're allowed to run matches again, it will be likely in closed stadiums and streamed live so that the fans can watch, but there won't be a crowd, which makes sense. I thought when I read it initially that they were sort of doing what wrestling's doing, which is sort of actually having it carry on, and yeah, I thought it was one thing doing it with wrestling, but I thought like football, well, there's more of them. There's a bigger a number of people all interacting. If they were to try
and do that now, it'd be massively irresponsible. Yeah. But if they're talking about when lockdown is over, doing it in empty stadiums, and it would be weird because I know they did a few matches like that before the lockdown. I haven't checked any of them out because I do not care for sport. And I've for years been trying to discourage football from continuing, even before this was a thing.
What have you been doing to do that?
I mean, just sort of tutting under my breath mostly. But I think they get the message.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a big sport fan, but I would be curious to see one of these empty kind of stadium games. But I imagine they get more money from all the TV rights deals.
Get a goal and just there's no hey, everyone just goes, oh, yep, that happened.
Exactly, but I think they get more money off the TV rights deals probably than they do from the
ticket sales. Yeah,
ticket sales. So
probably, yeah.
So they got to kind of protect that bit of money, I guess. Right, if they can't have everyone back in the stadiums, they still want to kind of sell the things for people to watch at home.
Yeah.
And maybe in fact, advertisers will pay even more for that advertising space because
more people
can't go to the stadiums.
Yeah.
Even more people want to watch at home. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
That's sport covered.
That is sport covered. Sorry, I was just looking at my little notes that I've put on the wrong side of the tripod, so they're a bit behind Chris there. But yeah, so there was it's kind of interesting what's been going on and what's sort of being discussed at the moment. We seem, numbers wise, in the lockdown to be ticking over. We had a few days of it being in the 700s and somethings, but they always know that there's a lag in reporting around a bank holiday, so that's not necessarily entirely representative. Today we're in the mid 800s, so it's not back up to the sort of 950 mark, but we're sort of tootling along at a steady pace, which sort of suggests maybe it's not going to continue rising, but at the same time it's not going down. And there's lots of talk about when will lockdown be lifted, how will lockdown be lifted, what are they going to do, and basically I don't think any kind of lockdown can be lifted until we are at a stage where the NHS is finding it comfortably manageable. And you've also got to bear in mind, anyone who goes to hospital with this, it's not like they're only in for a day or two. Everybody who goes is there for weeks, generally. That actually leads me on to another quite interesting and potentially grim story. Now, there was all this furore about getting ventilators for the NHS, and then they had to sort of do a rush job to get, because they just didn't have enough. And eventually, it seems like Dyson got the deal to sort of speed make a bunch of ventilators. Now, there was a Twitter thread by an ICU specialist nurse, and she pointed out a really big flaw in this plan. So this massive amount of ventilators that was a huge contract for Dyson, which are a big Tory donor, which is worth mentioning, and we're also big Brexit supporters. James Dyson, I can't say all of the people who work for Dyson, but James Dyson.
Cheers, Jimmy.
Basically, they've made these ventilators, and they are functional ventilators. They do the job of keeping someone breathing who is in a coma or whatever, but they lack a very important function. Now, because they were sort of done simply and quickly, normal ventilators, you can use these sort of for a while if somebody's sort of in a steady condition, but when somebody is getting better, what happens with ventilators is if you've been using one for a while, the muscles that all are normally controlling your breathing, so your diaphragm, basically they don't have to do anything, so they relax and they kind of atrophy. So you have to be weaned off a ventilator. Yeah, it actually has to start doing less of the work for you so that you do some of the work and your muscle strength comes back into your diaphragm and you gradually learn to breathe for yourself again. These don't have that function. None of them do. They are just literally on or off. So the people being weaned off will still have to be switched to a different ventilator to be weaned off if they're getting better. So there's still going to be a ventilator shortage. Or there's going to be people having to take up beds for longer because they're on the wrong ventilator, but there isn't the right ventilator to take them off. That means that they can be weaned off it. So it's kind of putting a plaster on the Hoover Dam. It's sort of not really done you're still going to be taking up beds that didn't necessarily be taken up, and they're still going to need these other ventilators. So that is a big old fail. on part of the government. And this was when other companies were offering them exactly what they needed, and they just were met with silence. Another massive fail that they've done today, well, over the last few days actually, but Matt Hancock, the joy that he is, has suggested that since PPE, so personal protective equipment, is such a precious resource at the moment, that where possible, staff might want to consider reusing it. Reusing PPE is almost worse than not having it, because once you've used, let's say, gloves with a patient who has COVID, if you then reuse those gloves with someone else, you're going to give them COVID. If you reuse a mask, it's no longer working and you're just going to spread. So it's actually worse. So if you reuse an apron, you reuse a mask, basically the protective element has gone, but the cross-contamination element is still very much there. Well, so that's really terrible advice.
To use your plaster analogy, if you use a plaster and then you have it on a cut for a couple of days and then you pull it away and it's all grubby and it's got bits of hair on it and it's not as sticky as it once was, and then you get another cut, you can't use that plaster again, can you? It's just not fit for purpose, right? And it's essentially the same deal here. You use up the resource of those gloves and the mask, and you can't.
And it's a real insult to the staff that are having to work under these conditions and are really trying their hardest to treat these as they are precious. So I don't think anyone's wasting them frivolously, but ultimately, clinically speaking, after a certain point, you have to stop using the same bit of equipment because it's becoming more of a cross-contamination risk than it is protective. Another thing, one of the types of masks that are the sort of top-level protective masks, when you put them on, they create a seal around your face. And so basically, you're totally protected until you remove that mask. Mm-hmm. There are members of staff who've been putting those on. It's been hot weather. They've not been having a drink. They've been going thirsty because they don't want to take it off, because once they take it off, the seal is broken and then it's not technically as strong protection as it would have been. So they've been going hungry, they've been going thirsty, they've been like avoiding having loo breaks and having absolutely like uncomfortably full bladders because they don't want to use extra PPE. And for then the government to sort of basically throw out a sort of, oh, maybe you can reuse them, maybe you can be a bit more careful with them, maybe you need to treat them like they're a bit more precious. These guys know they're precious. These guys know that they are protecting themselves from getting it. They are already treating them like they are precious. You are essentially insulting everybody who's having to deal with this and making the best of it. And it's yet again another fine example of massively misjudged way of dealing with this. It's just a real lack of understanding of the real world, and he's the fucking health secretary.
It's another example of our incompetent Tory government. Let's make it the last Tory government. Yes, let's do that.
Yes, please. Surely, and there's still people out there going like, oh, aren't they doing the best that they could do under impossible odds? No, they're being absolute fucking fucktards. They are being ridiculous, and it's just been calamity after catastrophe after fucking shit show. It's been a nightmare. It's been a constant chain of just terrible decisions, poorly managed, and all with this kind of sense of, well, we're untouchable and they'll just lap it up, and we are. Lots of us are. And I don't get it.
I agree. Can I plug my article?
Yes, absolutely.
Because Ellie alluded earlier to me writing a Whatculture article, as if that was just a thing in common parlance that people would understand.
I thought you'd mentioned it before, have you not?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I might have mentioned I was writing an article. I have written an article for Whatculture, which is a pop culture website. It was published on the site today. It's
really good.
Thank you.
I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. It's 10 ways in which WWE could have improved WrestleMania 36, and because I've written for them before, and actually it's something I can do when I'm at home and stuck in a room with a cat. Is I can write an article on my phone, and so that's brilliant. But the slightly less brilliant thing is it's very unreliable money because it all depends on if an article takes off. If people read it and gets lots of clicks, I make a bit more money. If no one reads it, I don't get much money. But that's fine. If you're into wrestling, I've not harped on about wrestling today on the vlog here like I normally do. But if you are into wrestling, check that out. The Whatculture website, whatculture.com, or if you know me on Facebook, I've shared it on my Facebook wall, and find that and have a look.
I will
That'd
put
be
the
great.
link in the blurb as well,
Brilliant.
so
Thank
that
you.
people can read it there.
Oh, there you go,
And
even
do,
easier.
even if you're not really into it, 5 minutes, just click through it, because then he gets the views, which means we get the moolah.
That would be nice, given that is my only work right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, it'd be handy. But I do think it's a really well written article, and actually it's very exciting for the ones to be able to read one of your wrestling articles and know what you're talking about, because I watched WrestleMania with you. I did understand what was going on. But you do also, you're working on another one that's not about wrestling. You do some others on there, so...
Yes, I do. I'm working on one about Disney Plus at the moment. So if you're into Disney or pluses or censorship, because that's the topic, then
if you're into censorship,
look
then
forward to that.
Look forward to that. Right, so we are just about at time, actually, guys. So
are.
there were a few things that we didn't cover, as ever. I should probably mention that Poppet is okay, by the way. I don't know if we actually just said she's having a little stretch.
Should have turned over and kicked my foot.
So we're probably going to have to call that a night there, guys. But look after yourselves. We will be back tomorrow, probably still in the room with the terrible wallpaper. We will see you then. Bye, guys.
Bye.